tell us your name and your birth date and your age and.
My name is Evelyn Seeger. Used to be Heimsoth. But I go by Evie. Everybody I know pretty much knows me by Evie. And I'm 87 years old.
Okay.
No, I'm not.
Yes.
Not by 87?
Yes, you are. I think so.
Okay.
I think so. I guess we'd have to do the math.
Or maybe I'm 86.
Yeah, it doesn't. Close enough. Just say your birthday.
Yeah, okay. November 7, 1938 was when I was born.
Correct. And today is what day?
It is March 23rd, 2025.
Correct. All right.
So,
So the last video we shot, we ended with your wedding. We talked about your wedding.
uh-huh.
But I assume that right away next came the honeymoon. I would have guessed. Did you?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about your honeymoon.
Well, we did a traditional thing. We drove to Niagara Falls and enjoyed Niagara Falls. And I don't remember how many days we were there, and I don't remember how long we were gone. But then we took the Canadian route home and came through Sault Ste. Marie, went to the island, Mackinac. Yeah, we stopped at Mackinac, and then we came down through Michigan, and we stopped. We noticed that there was somehow we found out that there was a ferry that could take you from Ludington, Michigan, over to Milwaukee, and we thought, oh, that would be kind of something fun to do. So we pulled our car on and we took the ferry across from Ludington, Michigan to Milwaukee, and then we drove the rest of the way home.
Okay. How far away was Niagara Falls from?
I don't remember.
Yeah, okay.
I don't remember. You're
Doesn't
talking
really matter.
mileage? I don't remember.
Yeah, that's all right. Doesn't really matter. So, and you were gone probably
A week or so.
week.
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, it had to be longer, I
Okay.
think. Yeah.
So, when you got back, so obviously there was a house built, and we'll talk about that more, but was that already built when you?
It was in the process, not quite ready, so we stayed with my mom and dad,
Okay.
with Esther and Bill, and your dad didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
So he was counting them hours so that we could get over into our own home.
Right. And do you remember how long it was approximately that you had to live with them until?
Yeah, it was maybe a couple weeks.
Oh, that wasn't much at
Yeah.
all. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So,
And I think when we moved in, it just needed to be painted and things like that we could do. And my dad would come over and he would come with his paintbrush and his his can of paint, because I think, yeah, he had time. And so on the weekend, he would come and help us paint and things like that. But it was basically livable.
okay. So just talk about the decision what led up to that decision and
To build that house.
Yeah. And
Well, my mom and dad, before they moved to the farm, they made sure that my grandpa had taken care of his estate. And so part of the farm was set aside for my mom and dad, and part of the farm was set aside for Edgar and Elsie. And so my mom and dad, because they knew Ed had no money. He just came out of the service. He didn't. His parents never owned a home, except the home that they were living in when they just before he went into the service, and he helped them buy that home, and I think it was a shell, and so he also helped them partition it off and making the rooms. And so he didn't have any money, and I was so young, I hardly had any money too. But so I think that they wanted to help us get started. So they talked to my grandpa about whether he would consider giving up an acre. Upon finding out by the county rules, when you have your own septic system, you had to have an acre. And so that was what was required. And so they asked him if he would consider donating or giving us an acre of land
It was a
so
gift.
that we
Gift.
could build a home.
And was that, and was that Edgar?
It was
Edgar's?
part of his, it was really part of his parcel,
Okay,
I think.
okay. But did I'm just curious, did money have to change hands to Edgar, or
No.
he just, Edgar was okay and just
Yeah,
it
they-
being part of his?
They knew it, yeah.
Yeah,
So, it came out of his part of the farm, parcel of the farm.
okay. And there was still, obviously, I lived there for part of my life. There was crops on the
Oh, yeah.
perimeter still.
Yeah.
Was Edgar farming that?
No, my dad,
He farmed it all.
he farmed it all. And, I don't remember if he leased it from Edgar or if he ever paid Edgar anything for that parcel
Yeah.
or what. I don't remember any of that.
Okay.
But I remember my dad, we had no money, so my dad held the mortgage on that house.
Sure.
And I think we paid him, of course, interest was like nothing those days, but I think we paid him $125 a month as our mortgage payment to my dad.
Okay. And why don't you describe the house a little bit for?
Well, there was a builder that, I don't know how that all happened either. There was a builder, he had a model home that he had built, and we liked it, and we said, just build another one like that for us. And I think we could pick out the brick color or stuff for the outside, and but pretty much it was just a duplication of that model home that he had built, and I think it was probably a spec home that he built, and so we could, we just copied it.
And it was roughly 1,500 square feet or
13, I think.
13,
Mm-hmm.
and one bath. Well, two baths.
Right.
Really?
The one bath, originally it was one bath, but then we added a second bath in that playroom or whatever we wanted to call it. So there was a second bath with a shower in it. So, which, Dad could use when he was working outside. He could go right in there and shower whatever he needed when he was working around in the yard and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he would use that bath, most, like in the morning, he would shower in there. And so you guys and I were probably the sole users of the one bath by the bedrooms.
Mm-hmm. And there were 3 bedrooms. Just
2 baths.
yeah, but 3 bedrooms, and yeah.
Yes, 3 bedrooms.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Brian got his own bedroom. Obviously, you and Dad had a bedroom, and Lori and I shared one.
Right.
Okay. All right. There was quite a bit of land around it. The house. I mean, because we had that whole side yard.
Uh-huh. Well, that was part, they decided, I don't know, I guess probably my dad decided that put the house not right in the middle of the whole acre, and put the house over to one side and leave the other side vacant.
Yeah, and kind of describe where it was in relationship to the farm, and where
Well,
it was the the original farmhouse, and then the new grandma and grandpa house that they built.
I don't know how to describe it.
Around a corner.
It was like around the corner.
Mhm.
We could see my mom and dad's house, which they built when they moved to the farm, or when, and we would have to probably go out of our house to see the farmhouse. So I just have to tell you something funny. Your dad loved watermelon. Oh my gosh. I mean, all summer, so he decided one year if he could plant watermelons seeds out in the orchard on the old farm. And so my dad said, sure. So he went out there with the plow, and he plowed a little section off, and your dad planted the watermelon. And because it was just such fertile ground, it was just turned over, and it was just so fertile. He had watermelons hanging out of his ears, and unfortunately, the season, I don't know if he didn't plant it early enough or what happened, but anyway, the season was ending and there was going to come frost, and so he decided he had to pick the watermelons. So he picked up all the watermelons, and he piled the ripe and mostly non-ripe, and piled them in our garage. And so we had a whole stack of watermelons standing in the middle of our garage. And so it was kind of a joke. My dad laughed a lot about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how did they go away?
I don't know what he did. I think maybe your dad dug a hole someplace on the farmland and had to dispose of them some way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't remember quite how that all went about because I was busy.
Mm-hmm. That's funny. Good. And would you overall was it what how would you describe living around the corner, essentially next door to your mom and dad?
Well,
And Sharon was still at
yeah,
home in
and
those
Sharon
days?
was there. Yeah,
Yes.
and yeah, and to Lori, not so much you, but to Lori, Auntie Sharon was this teenage young person, and I mean, she just there was a closeness there because of the time, and then Sharon married and moved away, but during those years, and I think probably Sharon paid a lot of attention to Lori too because she was her first niece or something like that. But anyway, um, it was good, it was very good. There were some issues sometimes. One good thing, I mean, I always had my mother would say, "Let the kids come over." On the weekends, I never had to get a babysitter unless there was a conflict where there was a family, um, a family occasion, so that that we both were going to the same party or something like that, and I'd have to get a babysitter. But it was wonderful, and I think you kids grew up just had a real nice, wholesome upbringing because of it, and a closeness with a grandpa and grandma, which nowadays is maybe not always around. But anyway, but there could have been some difficulties. My mother was sweet mother, but uh, if we didn't go to church rarely, if we didn't go to church on a Sunday morning, she'd want to know why we didn't go to church and how come, And of course, we were great church. We went to church probably 99% of the time because you kids were in Lutheran school, and so we, it was part of our life. But so I can remember one time I think I had enough or something, which and she knew I was mad or angry about something. So she sent my dad over. And my dad was so, he never raised his voice. He was just always sweet, always agreeable. And so she sent my dad over, and he was supposed to smooth it over. And I knew he didn't come right out and say anything, but I knew what was going on, so, and eventually it blew over, and I was just thinking about that today, that how hard it was, difficult, very, very difficult when we moved away for them, because their life was just around us. No, not totally around us. They had many, many friends and relatives and busy with their lives, and stuff like that. But it was very difficult for them, and I regretted that. But I think I was just talking with Lori, and Lori said she's so glad that we moved, because she said she was the oldest, and I don't know why, but she had some reasons, but I don't know why.
Yeah, well, it was a whole different lifestyle in
Yeah.
Colorado.
Yeah.
So, anyway, okay, so then back to, you moved into the house, you were still working, Dad was working.
Dad was at Motorola by that time. When we first met, he had just gotten out of the service, and he was going to school, and he was working for a commercial airline or something like that, that in O'Hare Field. That's when I first met him, and they were loading cargo off and on the airplane, and I think he called it Slick Airlines at that time. And so that's where he was doing at first when I met him. And then during the relationship, I guess that's when he got the job at Motorola.
Okay.
So that's where he was working when we got married.
All right. And then I know that there were some trips because I've seen pictures of some trips you guys took during that
Oh yeah.
time. And there was one that I believe you had to take your little sister.
I did. And so, yeah, we decided, we wanted to go to the Smoky Mountains. And so Sharon said, I never get to go on a vacation. And she's looking so pitiful and talking so pitiful. And so Dad and I talked, and Dad said, well, we can take her. We'll take her. So we took her along. So it was kind of funny.
That's great. So the Great Smoky Mountains, tell me specifically where you went.
I don't remember for sure, but I think it was probably wherever the Smoky Mountains are. Yeah. And it's kind of a joke for that trip. They have bears there too. And there was a bear digging in a trash can, and there were other people around and taking pictures, and so Dad gets out of the car, goes with his camera, and wants to take a picture of this bear. Well, the bear lunged, and not really at the group. Well, it looked like it was going to or something like that. Boy, everybody backed off, and it was kind of a joke about him being, at that time, being so close to this bear in the trash can in the mountains. Mm-hmm. So,
is that when you went to DC then? Did you?
No,
that was a different trip. Okay,
yeah.
So but go ahead and finish what you were.
Well, anyway, I don't remember where we were in the Smoky Mountains. I don't remember much more about that trip.
Did Sharon have a good time?
I think she and I giggled about it a lot over the years.
That's great.
So, yeah.
Great.
So, anyway.
Yeah. Okay, and then what would you think DC was another trip that you went on shortly after that?
Lori was a baby, and there was a couple that were in our wedding, Alice and Bob Ryan. He was in the service, and he was stationed in Maryland, I think, someplace out there. And so they said, oh, why don't you come and see us, And so we did, and we left Lori with Grandma, which was another blessing. And so we drove out to see them. We stayed with them, and we did a tour of Washington, D.C. And then we got a phone call, or we called home or something, I don't know, but come to find out that Grandpa had passed away.
Yeah, and that's
Grandpa Bunyan, yeah.
August.
And so we just decided we have to turn around. We'll just have to leave right now. So we drove, and Dad drove all the way from Maryland, all the way home overnight, straight through. And so that we got home, and so that we didn't feel Grandma was trying to make arrangements for our funeral, and et cetera, and so that's why so that Lori was taken care of, and that she didn't have to take care of Lori through all that. So that was that trip.
Okay, what about, can you think of any other trips before you had children and that type of stuff?
I think that was it pretty much.
What about, you had a pretty big social group of friends.
Yeah, we did.
Camping or trips to, just even shorter trips to lake cabins or anything like
that? Before the camping a little bit, Fernette and her group, we all married, and they married men from Roselle. I mean, local people and local guys. And so we socialized together, and I think we would always get together maybe on the 4th of July, and they all had yards, so we would all go and have a picnic in the yard, bring our own meat, and have the girls out and stuff like that. And it got to be a joke because by that time we had numerous kids between all of us, And so if somebody would cry, we'd say, the joke was, whose kid is that? And so so we'd all look at each other, whose kid is that crying? And so it got to be a joke about, we would say, whose kid is that?
Mm-hmm.
And then we had another group of friends, and I'm not sure how they were kind of, part of them were kind of like second cousins or even third cousins of mine, but they were kind of like an Arlington Heights group. And I think Dad bowled with them or something, and that's kind of, he was in a bowling league, and that was kind of how we got together with them. And they also had children, and we would have dinner parties with each other and take turns. And it wasn't so much picnic, it was around a dinner table inside. And that was another group of friends, probably 6 couples or something like that. So between the two, we were really busy. And then family, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that was
Mm-hmm.
how it went in
Mm-hmm.
those days.
Yep. So Lori was born in 59, Brian in 62,
And you in 64.
and me in 64.
Yeah.
So then life changed a bit, I suppose.
Yeah. Well,
just for like it does for everybody when you have children.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, you know, it didn't change that much because we just, you know, we just went with the flow. And then we started camping, and we thought that would be a fun thing to do. Oh, I know. My mom and dad have had friends, and his name was Hans Hay, and he had a camper, a little pop-up, and it kind of caught Dad's eye, and so I think he may have upgraded, or maybe he didn't want it anymore, and so we bought it. And so that was our first little camper, and basically what it was is just you open it up, and there were 2 beds on each side, and so we used that for a few years.
Okay. Was that before you had all
I
the
don't
kids
remember.
were born?
We may have had Lori, but I don't know if we
Yeah.
had everybody else.
Okay. And where would you go camping? Where would you go in those
Well, I
days?
remember for one time we went down. Ed had cousins in Peoria, and so I remember one time we met them. I don't know if it was halfway in between or what. I don't remember other places that we went particularly. And so then the camping expanded. We thought it was nice, and you were with us at that time, you were born. And so we bought a bigger camper. And then also we bought this property in Wisconsin. And so we camped in Wisconsin. I can remember we went to Baraboo, Wisconsin. That was probably before we bought the lot up in Wisconsin. And I remember one time, I think Sharon and Tom joined us. And I guess maybe, I don't know. But anyway, that was the beginning of our camping. And I don't remember any other places. We'd always find some place to go, but I don't remember particularly where. But
Okay.
anyway.
So talk about the fact that you had lots of family around, you know, because everybody was born there and married people from there, and so there was a lot of family. And what was that like with holidays and birthdays and
Well,
such?
is it time? You're talking in the family?
Yeah, just because it's
Well, Edgar and Elsie were always part of the birthday parties because they were like an auntie and an uncle, and just doted on you kids too, you know. And remember, and Elsie's birthday cakes, and
oh, she baked. She baked birthday cakes.
Yeah, and she would decorate.
Oh, nice.
And I know I have pictures of sometimes of your birthdays. And so we would always invite number one, your godparents, and then number two, the Yezel family, and they were always included in our birthday parties. And of course, then we were included in their birthday parties too. So, and then Roland and Marlene and their family were also included.
Dad's brother.
Dad's brother, yep. So, birthday parties were usually a pretty big thing.
And were Harvey and Grandma Seeger
Yeah.
kind of around too?
By that time, I think Grandpa had passed away, and so was Harvey. I don't remember them ever coming, really.
Right.
Yeah, but they were always invited, and not even for the holidays. But anyway, the holidays were usually at my mother's or my house, and so.
Yeah.
Did I talk about earlier about the first Thanksgiving in our home?
So.
The first Thanksgiving, I think, maybe it wasn't the first, but it was one Thanksgiving. And we had turkey. And so after the meal, your dad took the carcass and a lot of the meat on it yet and put it in the garage and didn't cover it though. Well, maybe it was covered. I don't know. But for some reason, my dad's dog got loose and came into the garage and ate the turkey, or a lot of it.
That was leftover, but
that was the leftovers.
But what would happen normally?
Well, we were going to have cold
days?
turkey sandwiches for dinner, and
Right.
so Dad went out to get the turkey, the roasting pan with the turkey in it, and the dog had been in it. So
Did the dog get sick?
Yeah, and that was kind of something that we joked about and laughed about for years, you know.
Right. Well, and I just know I was pretty young in when I lived there, so my memories aren't totally clear, but just from looking at all the pictures, just every time there was a birthday or a holiday, and even in the summertime.
Oh yeah.
Brian had the
outside parties.
The outside parties in the back, and because we had all of that land, it was just
Yeah.
The lawn chairs came out. And
Yeah, sometimes Dad would even put a tent up. By that time, we had kind of acquired some kind of tent for when we were camping.
Right.
A cover tent, anyway.
Right.
Not a sleeping tent, but just an awning. And so we would put that up.
Right. And then I know in the pictures too, you've got a lot of Willard's family was there too. Heimsoth's.
Uh-huh.
Because we've got some great pictures with those kids.
Yeah, but they were
a little bit older than us, but
yeah.
But yeah, a lot of them.
Yeah.
In the pictures.
And I think that's probably to this day why we have a close feelings about Tom and even his brothers and Diane and stuff too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's. I think we should stop there now. That's a good time to stop, and we'll talk again soon.